Hi everyone, Brett here from MC Builds. If you're just joining us, I bought this used vinyl fencing and arbor on the Facebook Marketplace last fall for $400. Seemed like a pretty good deal at the time and it would make for a nice little springtime project. But we all know how things like this go, and my nice little springtime project turned into a full-on yard renovation. In this video I tackle the fence, the arbor, a sidewalk, and a cool side yard transformation. I figured the fencing was the best place to get started, so I jumped right into it. After finding the property line and marking it out with paint, I laid out all the post holes and started digging. Fortunately, I didn't run into any boulders like the one on the right hand side of the screen. We dug 4 or 5 of those out several years ago when we were building the house. Next, I set the 2 end posts with bagged concrete mix and made sure they were nice and plumb both directions. Then, after allowing the concrete to dry for a couple of days, I put a string lane across the top and one near the bottom on the side to set the rest of the post and get them nice and straight. After allowing the concrete to dry on the rest of the posts, it was time to put it all together. As I mentioned earlier, this fencing was used and the panels were pretty dirty, as you can see, but I got a new pressure washer and I figured this is a good place to try it out. I'm pretty excited to use it. Pressure washer worked out great and the fence didn't turn out half bad also. Check it out, nice and straight. As I mentioned earlier, this arbor actually came with the fencing when I purchased it, and from the moment I seen it I knew exactly where I wanted to put it. Right here at the end of the fence and in the back corner of the house. I figured it'll serve as kind of an entryway into the backyard. I decided to put the arch top on the arbor together and put it where I wanted it, mark the holes, and jump back into my favorite job, digging again. Not really. And naturally, due to Murphy's Law, I ended up landing on 2 sprinkler heads and 1 buried sprinkler line. So after rerouting them, I had 2 more fence posts to set. One on the corner of the house and one at the end of the fence where I'm going to transition to a 6-foot fence in the backyard later on. At that point I couldn't resist putting the arbor together and checking it out just to see how it would look, even though I was by myself, and as you can see the wind was blowing like crazy. With the fence and arbor pretty well put together and finished up, my next hurdle was to get rid of some of this grass. With the help of my son and a sod cutter that I rented from the local hardware store, it went pretty smooth. The plan from the beginning was to have a walkway come off the side of the porch, turn, go up the center of the side yard, and then through the archway. After a debate over concrete versus pavers, we opted to go with the concrete. After setting forms and tuning up the grade with gravel, because gravel is definitely cheaper than concrete, I got right into it with the help of a friend to pour it out. I decided to put a light broom texture on the concrete just to make it a little more slip resistant. And after allowing it to dry overnight, I stripped off all the concrete forms. Then I chalked and cut lines to try to control future cracking, because one guarantee with concrete is that it will crack. With the concrete done, it was time to focus on the planter areas. So the first thing I done was expose these old sprinkler lines. I'm going to use them for the drip lines later on. Next, I got rid of all the weeds and leveled out the dirt to get it ready for the weed barrier and future planting. One thing I've learned from past experience is it's well worth paying a little extra for a better weed barrier. The cheap ones break down and you'll definitely regret it. With the weed barrier down and after a costly trip to the garden center, it was finally time to get planting. So after figuring out where I wanted all the plants to go and placing them there, I jumped back into my favorite job again, digging holes. The soil in my area is not bad, but I found by adding this mulch that's produced locally, everything just seems to grow a lot better. After the planting was all done, it was time to tackle the drip system. So I bought this handy dandy little kit and jumped right into it. Since the one side of this planter is right up against the house on the north side, I figured that the plants didn't need as much water. So I used a 1 gallon per hour fitting on this side, and the other side that's in the sun most of the time I used a 3 gallon per hour. So I was excited to get into the rock because I figured that was one of the last phases of this project. In the past I used smaller gravel, which was easier to shovel and rake around. I decided to try this larger rock, which proved to be a little more difficult and a little more time consuming. But it turned out awesome, and I'm glad I decided to go that route. All in all, the project went pretty smooth except for a couple of rain delays and some critter munching on a couple of my new plants, of which I'm pretty sure I found the culprit sneaking around on the other side of the fence. Last but not least, I found these cool solar post lights to install. I think they just kind of gave it the finishing touch. And that's pretty much a wrap on this phase of the project. But if you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe because I have big plans for the rest of the yard. And if you haven't already, check out some of my other builds. And thanks for watching.